7 levels of sampling, loopers or breakbeats. Before hip-hop became what it is today, and before the MPC 60 will be introduced to the world, hip-hop will make its splash in the early 70s in the South Bronx by DJ Kool Herc, which will establish the popularity of the culture itself by using breakbeats. And this was all due to the fact that the government would not support certain schools in certain areas with musical instruments. DJs would grab 2 copies of the same record and then would loop them back and forth, thus causing for the breakbeat or looping. These factors would establish a culture of sampling. And even though it's level 1, it is not as easy as you think it is. Finding the right breakbeat means that you need a lot of discipline because it's high risk, high reward, and having a damn good lawyer too. Not to mention finding the right tools for the job. My favorite tool for the job is the MPC, but I definitely want to hear from you guys in the comment section which is your favorite tool for sampling. Many people believe that a breakbeat is just a drum line like this, but it's much deeper than that. One of my favorite breakbeat style producers is DJ Premier, definitely Dr. Dre. I genuinely have to mention the RZA when it comes to looping and finding breakbeats because man, what in the world he be on, it be on some insane shit. And when it comes to finding some breakbeats, I gotta mention DJ Toomp. You'll notice that there's a correlation with DJs on this list or in this video. Say what you want about Timbaland. When Timbaland was a fat dude, this man was finding some of the most extravagant breakbeats in hip hop history, bruh. Big Pippin, always gonna be up there, bruh. I'm high-key trolling right now, but which Timbaland did you prefer? The fat Timbaland or the Timbaland that we know today? I mean, I still rock with Timbaland, the Alchemist or the Alchemist. And one of my personal favorites, which doesn't get that much praise, which is Cut Chemist. You see, Cut Chemist actually uses guitar pedal loops and his turntable to make beats on the fly. And I highly recommend looking at the link in the description box where he does this for real. Velocity chopping. Now, Just Blaze can easily fit into the breakbeat category as well, but one of the things that I've always noticed about his production is velocity sampling, or better yet, velocity chopping. But I think it would be a little disgenuine if I didn't mention Bink. Observe. Ooh. To show you in detail what you would do on the MPC or any other device is you would turn full level off on the MPC, but you would have control of your velocity. So to put this in play, let's go ahead and do that. And now you have velocity chops. Where you get the Just Blaze variant is in note repeat. Arsonist does this technique as well when he did it on his song, The Dipset Anthem. So you will notice when I press and hold the note repeat button, it will repeat itself. So you can also change it to, but we're gonna do 1/16. BPM sampling or chopping. Now, BPM sampling or chopping technically just goes to a certain MPC, which is the MPC 2500. But technically speaking, you can find a similar idea on the MPC 2000 or 2000 XL. Not to mention most modern pieces of gear does the exact same thing. The general idea of BPM chopping comes from The Alchemist because he would take a record that had stuff already on there, drums and all that, not worrying about any of that, and remix it into his own beat. What makes this more established is that you would use the tap tempo button to time in your samples on your older MPCs, while on the modern MPCs, you can do things like time stretch or warping to make the sample fit into the BPM. But you do have the tap tempo button over here for that technique. Even though we know that David Banner makes some of the hardest beats that any Southern hip hop producer can appreciate, he's also a part of this style as well. To my fellow OGs out there, do you do region chopping or do you do the BPM chopping? I want to know in the comments. Reverse sampling. There's one person that we have to talk about. It has to be Rick Rubin, because Rick Rubin is the first person that I've seen, or heard rather, use this technique of reverse sampling. And Rick Rubin established this style on the Beastie Boys record Paul Revere, which funny enough comes from a record that Rick Rubin produced before that song, which is Taylor Rock, It's Yours. Yeah, you didn't know I was a hip hop historian like that, huh? A more modern take on that is Pharrell of the Neptunes, where he would exhibit this exact same style of production on the Clips So Be It. On modern day samplers, it's pretty easy to do this because all you have to do is go over into whatever menu that you would desire on the MPC is the track edit, and you would hit the reverse button. And if I wanted to take it to the drums, let's go ahead and do that. We can do the exact same thing. And as you can see, it's not just about reversing a sample and getting something dope. It's just about experimentation. Have you tried this technique out? Chipmunk sampling. Now, chipmunk sampling is a reference to Alvin and the Chipmunks, but I want you guys to see this man on the screen because he is the one that popularized this style. But it would be disingenuous if I didn't mention No ID, which happened to be one of his mentors. It would be more disingenuous of me if I didn't mention Arsonist of the Heatmakers, because that style was something he utilized a lot. And the reason why it's called chipmunk sampling is because of the tone of the sample once you pitch it up a couple of semitones. So if I was to pitch up the semitones of this sample right here, it starts to get that chipmunk sound. And during the early 2000s, this style was rampant because they would take soul samples that were normally slow and they would pitch it up, and then it would fit to whatever groove that you was trying to create on your favorite drum sampler of choice. Spot sampling. Now, I have to highlight one of the goats of the goats, and that is Pete Rock when it comes to spot sampling, in reference to finding spots on a record and then making it a combined sample chop. And I know people will mention micro chopping, and you know, we just have to combine the both. And big shout out to Pete Rock right there in the lab with the god himself. And one of the many guys to do something with spot sampling happens to be Kev Brown, which I have to mention during this documentary. One of the things about spot sampling that sticks out the most is that it will sample each element of a record in a way where it's a one shot, then bring it into an MPC or a drum sampler of your choice to make the vibe hit different. You can actually apply spot sampling to almost every single legendary producer of the 90s and the early 2000s. One of my personal favorites is Black Milk, where I learned this technique when I was using my MPC 3000. I've also seen instances of Just Blaze doing this process where he will sample parts, and exactly like you see on the screen, he's taking spots of that record. At that same event that Just Blaze was at, you will see Manny Fresh using this technique in finding spots of the record where he wants to sample in many pieces and then combining them with multiple samplers. So in other words, pick your GOAT and study what they do in their sampling process. Sample layering. One of my personal favorites is LP when it comes to this, because he takes every bit and every piece of a record and layers it into something new. One of my biggest inspirations for sample layering happens to be Hank Shockley, that produced for Public Enemy. He would also take this style to the West Coast and use that same style with Ice Cube. I can't talk about the West Coast and Ice Cube without mentioning EA Ski, which also comes up with styles that uses sample layering, which has a trickle-down effect when we talk about KLC of Beats by the Pound, because a lot of his style happens to use sample layering as well. Within that same trickle effect, I have to mention Organized Noise, which are my mentors. Long live Rico Wade. And the reason why it is level 7, because it takes a whole lot to take a whole bunch of different records and then make your own record. And this is something that someone like Easy Mo B has done effortlessly for years. And another one of my ghosts, which is DJ Quick, would take different pieces of records due to the same limitations of older drum samplers and make something new. And like DJ Quick, DJ Mug would do the exact same thing with Cypress Hill Records a long time in his career. So in short, there are more levels of sampling, but I just wanted to use 7 levels of sampling to kind of open up your mind to different ways and techniques of sampling so that you can approach your next beat in a more refreshed way. Leave a comment below. I definitely want to hear from you guys. Make sure that you check out some of the links in the description box if you want to learn about the MPC, which is my favorite drum sampler of choice. If you want to learn more about sampling from me, hey, I'll be gratefully appreciated. Let me know who is your GOAT in the comment section and what is the technique that you use.